Having written lots of great songs both for himself and for other artists, this guy has been one of my favorite writers and producers as of late, which is why today we're exploring how to produce a song like Charlie Puth. So the other day I was just messing on my MIDI keyboard, just playing some chord progressions and stuff like that. And I came across the following progression that really resonated with me, which went like... So this kind of felt like Charlie Puth to me, and I was like, let's record it into FL Studio and see if we can build a song around it. So I recorded this exact same chord phrase using the record notes tool over here so we could get it into the piano roll. And that's where I basically quantized it a little bit. And I also made a couple of changes. I added this top note over here, which makes it a little bit more melodic, like it adds a little bit of a melodic phrase to it, which sounds like this, instead of this. And then I also made sure that some of the notes were still like strumming a little bit, like this one over here, or even this, which just adds like a little more realism and kind of like some cool vibe to it, which I enjoyed. And yeah, then I felt, instead of just repeating the same phrase 2 times like I played on the piano, I felt the second phrase or the second repetition should be somewhat different, which is why I opted for the following variation. Which not only makes for a nice variation in terms of rhythm, because we go from all these short notes to, some more sustained notes over here, but also in terms of chords, it kind of works because we built from this D minor 7 to this E minor 7 to the F major 7 to the G major chord, which is kind of like a staircase, like walking up the stairs back to our like main or home chord, which is this A minor 7 over here. And that's why I felt this worked quite nicely, and this could be something that Charlie Puth would do in his productions or songs as well. So I really enjoyed what I had here, but I felt it sounded a little bit dark in terms of tonality, which is why I decided to shift it up a couple of semitones to make it just sound a little more bright and uplifting. And that sounds like this. So as you can hear, that just completely shifts the feel of the overall progression or phrase, and I kind of like that. So I decided, okay, let's stick with this as the main idea and let's start building or arranging the song from here. So what I did is I used the 4-bar Rhodes chord phrase as the intro, and then going into the verse, I figured let's add another element. And I decided to add a bass, specifically this Chapman bass preset from Trillion, which is like a Chapman stick mute bass. And that bass sounds like this. And together with our chord phrase, that sounds like this. And then I figured, okay, we could use the exact same like chord staircase again, like using these 4 chords to get back to our home chord. But instead I was like, okay, let's just do something completely different. Let's add this surprise element that really blows away the listener. And that is why I added the following fill, which sounds like this. So how did we do this? We basically used this chord staircase I was talking about, and I'm using 4 different instruments for the instrumentation of this. So we have this preset from Omnisphere called the Analog 80s Brass, which sounds like this. Very 80s, very analog. The second preset we're using is also from Omnisphere, which is the Boys Choir Ooze, which sounds like this. The third one, again from Omnisphere, is another choir patch, which is the choir full staccato, which is a little more impactful and sounds like this. And fourth, we have this preset from Serum, which really just adds a little more body and strength to this overall synth fill. And this one comes from the Oliver synth pack on Splice and sounds like this. And together this fill sounds like this. Now, as you can hear, there's quite a bit of release at the end. Like when we stopped playing it, it would still carry on for a little bit longer. And that is why on the mixer track of this fill, I added this fruity balance instance. I automated this volume knob and I made sure the volume was at exactly 0 when this fill ended, which makes it end very abruptly, and that makes for a way more tight transition into the next segment. But I felt this fill could be a little more impactful, so that is why I also added this kick sample. And this kick sample really just adds a little more impact and energy when this fill is played, and together that sounds like this. Now, crucially, I am sidechaining the kick to all of these elements, so to the Rhodes, to the Chapman bass, and to the fill synth. And specifically, I am doing this by sidechaining the kick mixer track to these elements, using the sidechain to this track function over here. And on all of these elements mixer tracks, I am inserting this instance of Kickstart 2 by Nicky Romero. I'm choosing the audio function over here, and I'm making sure that the kick is our sidechain input trigger, which means that whenever the kick plays, it makes sure that this instance, for example, of the fill only docks when the kick is being played. So as you can hear, the sidechaining makes quite a big difference and definitely adds some more energy and movement to this fill. And because we're already introducing the kick here, I figured the kick should also be in the next 4 bars. So there the kick plays again, just not in this 4 on the floor kick pattern like we did in the fill, but instead it plays the following pattern together with this snap sample. And after these 4 bars, I figured let's add some more movement as we head into the pre-chorus. And that is why I'm introducing this tambourine loop over here through this automation clip, which has this nice organic feel, which I felt would work well with the other elements that also sound quite organic. So we now head into the pre-chorus, and I figured let's add some more elements. So I'm adding this synth pad from the Retro Machines library in Contact, specifically the Matrix Pad 4 preset, which is one of my favorites because it just has this really nice, rich analog sound to it. And the other element I'm introducing in the pre-chorus is this snare sample from Splice. And to make this snare a little more interesting within the arrangement, I'm making sure that reverb is engaged every 4th time this snare is played. So on the snare we have this Valhalla Vintage Verb, which is my favorite reverb plugin, which has a mix level of 0% using most of the song, but every 4th time it plays, I'm automating it and making sure that the mix level is 100%. So we basically get the following pattern. So we're in the pre-chorus, and again I'm using our little synth fill to transition from the first to the second half of the pre-fill, which is very similar to the first half, but the only difference is the way it ends, which sounds like this. So as you can hear, the final bit of our fill and progression, this one over here, is being cut off at beat number 4, like the last beat of the section. And instead, we're introducing this long snap from the TS Mammoth pack on Splice, which sounds like this. And that basically is our fill into the chorus. And what we also hear right before, like in the last bar of this pre-chorus, is the introduction of this sub bass, which follows the Chapman bass and sounds like this. And this sub is going to be used in the chorus that is about to come, and specifically it is this deep sub preset from Silent One that I basically use in every session. So this sub bass along with the Mammoth snap and the other elements actually guide us as listeners into the chorus. And arrangement wise, this is where I wanted things to be different, because so far the soundscape was quite full. There was quite a bit going on in the verses, in the pre-chorus. We were always adding new things, and this is the part where I actually definitely wanted to strip away things, like in the chorus of Charlie Puth's Attention song.
And then I don't give them the drop, I give them the anti-drop.
And I wanted to go for something similar. So what I did is I basically stripped down the arrangement to only the kick, the Chapman bass, and the sub. And that sounds like this. So in this section, we have our Chapman bass with the following ending in the 4th bar, which I think adds quite a bit of grooviness to our phrase. And that was also already being introduced in the pre-chorus and sounds like this. Then second, the sub bass plays the exact same pattern, and the kick really just plays this 4 on the floor kick pattern. And then in the 4th bar, I figured let's, reintroduce some of the elements we introduced before. So we're reintroducing our Rhodes keyboard, but doing this smoothly through these like building velocity levels in the piano roll. And we're also reintroducing our Retro Machines Matrix Pad 4 preset, which is also being done in a rather smooth way through this filter automation clip, which is only being opened up a little bit. And along with these two elements, I'm also reintroducing the tambourine for some extra movement, just like we did when going into the pre-chorus. And again, I'm using the same volume automation clip to make sure that the reintroduction of this tambourine is a little more subtle. And that's where the familiar chords phrase on the Rhodes patch is being introduced again. Along with this sidechained version of our Retro Machines pad, which is being sidechained using this Kickstart 2 instance. And here I'm simply automating the mix level to make sure that the sidechaining is only happening in the second half of the chorus and that it's not being turned on in the verse and pre-chorus. And that's basically everything that's happening inside this session in terms of production. So the only final thing I had to do was add in Charlie Puth's vocals, which is why I took the vocals from his song Attention, pitched them down by 100 cents to make sure they're in key with the rest of the song, and there we go. I encourage you to download the free project file, the stems and the MIDI files down below to study everything inside the session at your own pace. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel to become part of our community of musicians and music lovers. And with that said, I'd like to thank you for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and let's now listen to the final result of our Charlie Puth song.